I don't know if it's our inherent need, our need to be like those spiritual leaders of the past, or just the stress of everyday life, or the image imposed to us every day on our television and phone screens, that we seem to be obsessed with escaping. That we need to escape our daily lives to find ourselves, to find our spirituality, to finally be awakened to who we truly are. For a little while now, I've been thinking about how does one reach spiritual enlightenment? How does one find oneself in this world? And I've come against a bit of a problem. We seem to be obsessed with escaping. Whether that is in the true form of trying to find ourselves, trying to emulate like the great scholars and spiritual thinkers of old, of them going off into the mountains and meditating. We too feel like we have to go off into the mountains and meditate, go to far off lands, take long travel trips across Europe in order to find ourselves and our spiritual self. But I feel that we have forgotten a very important part of that spiritual process. That part is those spiritual leaders, after they've meditated, after they went out onto the mountaintop, they came back down to earth. They came back to the cities, the villages, to the people. And they took what they learned from the mountaintop and integrated it into our daily lives. Now that is where I feel we have sort of lost touch. That we go on these spiritual journeys, these retreats, these places to find ourselves, but when we come back to the villages, to our cities, to our families, to our homes, we seem to forget the lessons that we learned, the insights that we were able to take in and integrate them into our life here around humanity. Because one can go on this grand trip to find themselves, to find out who they are. And it must be a wonderful trip to finally know what you like, what you know, to be one with oneself. And then you come home after the trip, after the long time of finding oneself, and then the world hits you right upside the head. You see the responsibilities and positions that you held in the world before you left to find yourself are still there. And many times the you that you were when you left the world and the you that you found out when you found yourself are so different. And it becomes a challenge to meld that new you with that old you that the world is expecting of you. And so what so often happens, you grasp, you hold on to that new you, that enlightened you as you enter into this world. Enter into your old life. But the responsibilities and the expectations that others have around you start whittling away at the edges, at the corners, trying to make you come back to that simple you that they know, the you that they can predict. And little by little, you may have held on just a little bit of that you found on yourself, but for the most part, you have reverted back. Maybe a week, maybe a month, maybe a year after you have found yourself. You only held on to a small bit of it. And you're back to where you were. And when it gets so difficult at that point, you feel like you have to escape again. You have to escape and find yourself again. Take time away from your responsibilities, away from your human life, away from humanity, so that you can find yourself again. And then the cycle continues. The cycle of you in humanity, and then finding yourself outside of humanity in your escape, and then you coming back to humanity. It is this endless cycle. If this sounds like you, say yes in the chat. That you seem to be on this cycle of your spiritual journey, of your journey of yourself, and you find yourself in this cycle. I will admit, I have been caught in this cycle, even though I do believe there is a better way. So I say, find yourself here where you are. Going to the mountains, having a hermit mode is useful. But you should not be dependent on that state to be yourself. You should not be dependent to have this escape from reality, this escape from your human connection, escape from your responsibilities in order to find your spiritual self. Because your spiritual self is more powerful, more honed to who you are in the everyday. One can find oneself and one's spirituality right where they are, amongst humanity, amongst your peers, amongst the stresses of the world, and amongst the craziness. Because if you find yourself amongst yourself within the world, you can find those practices most easily that can lift you up. Find yourself and truly know who you are. Because the you inside the world, the spiritual you that is inside the world, that you have found inside the world, is you. The you on the mountaintop, the you that have escaped, that's an idealized you. It's beautiful. It is almost a shining beacon for you. But that you is at its very best. You have to work with you in the world because you are of the world. So I suggest finding those practices that bring you to yourself. Whether it is prayer, whether it is walking in the woods, something that does not distract you, keeps you away from these devices that love to take your attention away from yourself, and just hear your own thoughts. Hear what questions you have and wait and hear the answers that are coming back to you. Because one does not need to escape this life to find themselves. You only need to listen to yourself here, where you are, amongst humanity, amongst the world, amongst the stresses of everyday life. That is who you are. And if you want to become something more than you are right now amongst humanity, you must make that change here. Not on a mountaintop, not in some distant land, here, where your soul is constantly calling home.